Welcome into Outkick the Show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. Friday edition, Outkick the Show. Time to make everybody rich with my divisional round playoff gambling picks. Not the kind of guy to brag, not the kind of guy to draw attention to himself, but I was flawless last weekend in the wild card round, and I plan on letting it roll forward this week. I hope you jumped on board the wild card gambling picks. I got a bunch for you as we roll into the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. Only 7 NFL games remain, 4 this weekend, 2 next weekend, and the Super Bowl. So you might as well go ahead and get your gambling shine on. My number 1 pick, the blood bank this weekend, the one that I love the most, and I can't give the mustache guarantee anymore because I'm back to a beard. I love the Chargers. I think the Chargers are going to go on the road. They're going to cover the 4 or 4.5, depending on what number you get. I don't just think they're going to cover the number. I actually think they're going to win this game outright. The New England Patriots have lost 5 games to non-playoff teams. In the Brady-Belichick era, they've averaged losing to 1.8 games to non-playoff teams. Never lost more than 3 in a season. I think the Chargers are better in every facet except maybe field goal kicker, and the Chargers may be even better in the field goal kicker. I like the Chargers running backs, I like the Chargers offensive line, I like the Chargers defensive line, I like their secondary. I like every single part of the Charger team more than I like the Patriots team, and that includes tight end, where for a long time Rob Gronkowski was a difference maker. I like the tight end position even more now that Hunter Henry's coming back. Shout out Stephen A. Smith. And also, I like Phillip Rivers more than I do Tom Brady right now. I think Phillip Rivers overall has had a better season. I think the Chargers travel on the road, beat the New England Patriots outright in Foxborough. But if you can get them plus 4.5 or plus 5 or plus 4, which is where that number is bouncing around right now, I love the Chargers. Maybe sprinkle a little bit of money on them on the money line as well. If you remember last weekend, my favorite 2 picks were the Chargers and the Colts, and they're still my favorite 2 picks. I like the Colts on the road against the Kansas City Chiefs. I like the Colts plus 5.5. I also like the under in this game. I think the Colts with Marlon Mack are going to run the ball, try to take some air out of this game, dictate pace, dictate tempo, and as a result, I think that we are going to get a Colts cover and maybe a Colts outright win. Crazy stat, Kansas City Chiefs have not won a home playoff game since Joe Montana was playing for them way back in 1993. So, jump on the Colts as well. Out in LA, Rams, Cowboys. I like the Cowboys plus 7. Love them plus 7. I think this is going to be a lower scoring game than people anticipate. I think the Cowboys will pound Ezekiel Elliott. I'm not sold on the Rams defense. They have not done well against the Bears, against the Eagles, or against the Lions down the stretch. I'm not convinced they got it right with the Cardinals and the 49ers. I think the Sean McVay hype has outgrown the Sean McVay reality. Dallas probably, I think a good shot, is going to have more fans in the Coliseum than the Rams. The Rams may have to go to a silent count, even at home, which is why I think the Cowboys have a very good chance to keep this game close, and I think they cover the 7 with ease. Finally, I think the Saints, Sean McVay and company, blow out the Eagles. I think the Nick Foles magic comes to an end. I believe right now the play is the Saints. They are the only favorite that I think covers. They're an 8-point favorite. I think you hop all over the Saints. They are going to run roughshod over the Eagles. Big story from the Saints and also the Chargers. A lot of times we get lost in talking about their offense. You know, since week 5, the Chargers have the number 1 overall scoring defense in the NFL. And also for the Saints, in the latter half of the season, they have had the best defense in the NFL. The Saints are the best team in the NFL. I don't think anybody's going to beat them in the Superdome. I think they will be in Atlanta, and I think they handle the Eagles with ease. I think the Eagles' biggest issue is going to be scoring points, which is why I think the Saints are going to come out and run away with it after a couple of weeks, really 3 weeks of rest. I think they will play really well. Maybe if you want to bet the Eagles early first quarter line, it may take a little while for the Saints to hit their stride because of the amount of time they've had off. That would be a play that I would look at if you really want to bet the Eagles. But again, to refresh, I like the Chargers. I sprinkle some money on them to win on the money line. I like also the Colts, money line play potentially as well. And I like the Cowboys, 3 underdogs there. Then I like the Saints to blow out the Eagles. Now, interesting, crazy factoid in the world of gambling. Right now, In the last 15 games in the NFL, the underdogs are 14-1 against the number. Is that going to continue? I'm not sure, but those are the 4 games that I would bet going forward. All right, what do we think about Antonio Brown? Did you see the quotes in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette from the Rooney family basically saying, we're done with Antonio Brown? Where is Antonio Brown going to end up? This is a big, big question. The Steelers are going to have to eat around $21 million in cap space. They'll free up the other $21 million, though, in the next year. I think there are a lot of teams out there that think they are one game-breaking wide receiver away from winning a championship. The first one that comes to mind, which I don't think the Patriots would ever allow, can you imagine if at the very end of Tom Brady's career he got the opportunity to throw to Antonio Brown? If I were right now the Patriots, I would give up my first-round pick in exchange for Antonio Brown for 2 more years, because I would think that Tom Brady only has a couple of years left, and if Tom Brady only has a couple of years left, you go get the best wide receiver in the NFL you can pair with him, Antonio Brown. I know people went after the Dallas Cowboys when they made the trade for Amari Cooper. I think if you believe your team is close to winning a championship, Antonio Brown is worth a first-round draft pick. For instance, the Titans are drafting like number 16 overall. I'm not even sure they're remotely close to winning a championship. If I were the Titans, I would give up my overall number 1 pick to see whether Mariota is the answer or not, and finally give him a game-breaking wide receiver and see what he could do with that if you paired him with Derrick Henry. I think the odds of you getting a great value for anybody, and I know Antonio Brown is 31 years old. Some people say it's not worth it. I think if you're close to a championship, it's worth it. If you believe you're close to winning a division, if you believe you are close to being able to contend for a Super Bowl, like inevitably the Patriots believe that they are, if you think you're a game-breaking wide receiver away from making yourself one of the best teams out there, I think it's worth it. I think if I'm the Indianapolis Colts and I've got Andrew Luck right now and I got T.Y. Hilton already, but I feel like, man, next year we could win the Super Bowl if I had Antonio Brown, I don't think that's a bad move. Now, the Colts may also be looking at LaShawn McCoy. They have so much salary cap space. If you're buying stock in a team, I think the Colts next year are unbelievable. But I don't think you ever lose by swinging for the fences and going for it, which is why I think the Patriots make the most sense, because they're going to have to rebuild in 2 years when Tom Brady is done anyway. Why not give him the most weapons imaginable for the final 2 years? I think it's a no-brainer. Now, if you're a young team and you don't think you're ready to make that leap to being a Super Bowl contender, then I understand why you don't want to give up a first-round pick. But a lower-level first-round pick, no-brainer to me. A lot of people went after Jerry Jones when he made the move for Amari Cooper. I think it's fair to say there's no way the Dallas Cowboys are in the divisional round of the playoffs right now if they hadn't made that move for Amari Cooper. People like to make fun of Jerry Jones. Guy makes pretty good decisions overall. May not be the greatest GM of all time, certainly. Has made a lot of errors there, but it ends up with, I think, a gold mine of a pick in Amari Cooper that he would never be able to grab if he were going into the open market right now and trying to grab him. All right, any questions about Antonio Brown from you guys out there? You can hop into the comments section right now in Periscope. There are a lot of people who want to react to Antonio Brown. I think it's unfortunate for the Steelers that they could not work things out with Antonio Brown, but I think there's a team out there. I think there is a team out there that will give up a first-round pick in exchange for Antonio Brown. I think the challenge for the Steelers is going to be they want to trade him somewhere where they're not in division, where they don't feel like they're competing with somebody for the Super Bowl. So I would bet there'll be an NFC team that makes a move to try to go grab Antonio Brown. Not sure who it will be, but I think it's a move worth making if you believe you are close to contending for a championship. Hell, if I'm the Saints and they would give me Antonio Brown for a first-round pick, our pick is going to be at the bottom of the first round, I would do that. Because I've got Drew Brees, and I feel like he's only got a couple of years left, and then I'm going to have to go back into the rebuild mode. I think that kind of fits perfectly. Antonio Brown at that point out at the same time as your quarterback, maybe even the Chargers, even though the Chargers already have a really good receiving core with Keenan Allen and Michael Williams. I'm not sure exactly, but I think there are a lot of plays out there to be had. If you are close to contending for a championship or believe that you are, Antonio Brown, in my mind, worth a first-round pick, even if that is a steep price to have to pay. All right. Did you see the Ringer story? The Ringer wrote a story arguing that we have to ban the kiss cam because of the modern era that we live in, where Me Too is taking prominence and consent is such a major issue. And this to me is a major point of discussion that should be analyzed by everybody out there. Why in the world are we publishing opinion pieces on major sites like The Ringer that nobody actually agrees with? If I put out a poll question right now and said, is the kiss cam offensive to you and should it be banned? 98% of people probably are going to say there's no way on earth it should be banned. The author of that piece is entitled to her perspective, but I believe when you allow and pay someone to write an article on your site that is that outlandish, it is so ridiculous that it reflects poorly upon your brand. Look, The Ringer does a lot of quality content. I don't spend much time on that site because, frankly, I don't have that much time, right? I don't have time to read multi-thousand word pieces, especially not when I'm writing them myself. When I'm writing books, I don't have a lot of time. They did an excellent piece. I think I came on and talked about it, about the 25-year anniversary of Fox buying the NFC, and oral history was phenomenal. That was outstandingly well done. But when you are out there arguing that the kiss cam needs to be banned, what is happening is there's a great book called The Coddling of the American Mind that I would encourage all of you to read, which talks about concept creep. In other words, racism is bad. Direct racism is bad, but occasionally feeling like you are microaggressed is not the same thing as racism, okay? Sexual assault is bad. Putting a camera up for comedic purposes and asking two people to kiss for 4 seconds at most on a camera in an arena or a stadium is not akin to rape. This is what happened when Matt Damon came out and he said, okay, look, we got to talk about the difference between a guy grabbing a girl's ass in a bar and rape. Like, there's a substantial difference between those two things, right? And all the crazy people in Hollywood came after Matt Damon and said, no, Matt Damon, you can't say that there's a difference between a girl getting her butt grabbed in a bar and rape. And I saw that story and I thought, my God, this is how crazy the world has become. People have lost their mental faculties and their ability to delineate between severe crimes and potentially not even crimes, but just uncouth behavior, right? And yet our entire legal system is predicated on distinguishing between, for instance, first-degree premeditated murder and a reckless homicide. We don't treat every death the same. Somebody who doesn't see somebody crossing the street and is driving too fast may well be guilty of vehicular homicide, but they're not guilty of first-degree premeditated murder. Those are two different charges that might be brought, okay? And I feel like we've lost all ability to handle nuance. And so a site like The Ringer, I think, as a person who has run a site for years, needs to have the willingness to say, you know what, you may feel this way. I think it's a really small percentage of the population that feels this way. Why don't you write this opinion piece on your own personal blog instead of us putting the brand name of The Ringer behind your opinion and somehow giving it legitimacy? Now, what I have started to do with pieces like these is I have started to just screenshot the ridiculousness of the piece, tweet out, this is absurd, and not even give the link to the piece. Because I think oftentimes these pieces are written to gin up outrage, and when all the clicks come in, people who are at the website, they say, wow, there's a lot of interest in this opinion piece. Let's do other ridiculous opinion pieces like these. We're going to ban cheerleaders. We're going to ban miniskirts. We're going to ban, like, all of this is ridiculous behavior. And so as a result, I'll often just grab now a screenshot, pop it out on my Twitter feed, and say this is utterly ridiculous. So I think that The Ringer should have a higher editorial standard than one person out of 100 is going to agree with this. I also think we need to stop coddling people who have extremist opinions and make them believe that they deserve to be bowed down to, kowtowed to, right? What these people who are writing these pieces don't understand is they are saying, my opinion is more important than the 98 or 99 people out of 100 who disagree with me. They are saying you have to respect my opinion and the fact that I am offended and change your behavior because I am offended, and the 98 or 99 people who are normal and are not offended are supposed to acknowledge the offense of the other person. I fundamentally disagree with this. I think if you are offended by something and you are an adult, first of all, in America today, you're probably a huge pussy. All right, let's be honest. You are a huge, pathetic wimp of a human being. All right? If you are offended by the kiss cam so much, don't go to games. Don't go to games. Don't go to arenas. Don't go to stadiums. Just like there's probably somebody out there who's offended by loud noise. Does that person then say, hey, instead of cheering and raising our voice, how about we just all raise the roof in the stadium and it's completely silent because my hearing is really impacted in a negative way by loud noises? You'd be like, well, that's crazy. Why would we adjust the behavior of 70,000 people so one person can be more comfortable? That's kind of what the kiss cam argument is, right? We have to stop allowing people with extremist opinions to dictate their extremist opinion and try to make it the mainstream opinion, right? We have to stop giving legitimacy to these opinions. Some people say, oh, well, you're so privileged, you don't even know what it would be like to be on the kiss cam and not be able to kiss the person sitting next to you. And I'm like, first of all, just don't kiss them, right? There are lots of times on the kiss cam over the years where I've seen somebody go on the kiss cam and they don't get kissed. And you know what happens? They move on to the next person, right? Or they stage funny kiss cam entertainments for the children and the adults who are there. My kids enjoy seeing the kiss cam just like they enjoy seeing people try to get up and floss or do the Carlton or whatever to win a dance contest during the game. Now, if you can't stand up and you're in the wheelchair, you might be offended that they're having dance contests that you can't compete in. Are we never supposed to do anything that ever offends a single person? If that were true, nothing would ever be capable of being done, because in this age of perpetual outrage, people are truly offended by everything, okay? And so as a result, I'm telling you right now that you are a loser, and we have to stop treating losers as being worthy of respect, all right? Who will buy the Fox RSNs? Who will buy the Fox RSNs? This has turned into a major story. If you are intrigued by sports business and media like I am, Fox sold its 22 regional sports networks, Fox Sports Ohio, Fox Sports South, Fox Sports whatever it is, Arizona. All of these different Fox Sports companies, regional sports networks, were sold to Disney for $20 billion, right? And now Disney has to sell them as a result of the overall decree from the government, and nobody is sure who is going to end up buying them. And there's only one bidder, Sinclair, right now, which is a company out there in the broadcasting space. This is a story worth following for this reason. I think it's a canary in the coal mine moment. For a long time, we have been talking about when it's going to happen that all of these networks are going to start to go to direct to consumer, right? Whatever team you're a fan of in the NHL, Major League Baseball, or in the NBA, the RSNs are where they put all these local team broadcasts on, right? Ultimately, what I think is going to happen is, as these contracts start to come up, the teams are just going to take their digital rights and sell it directly to everyone, okay? If that is going to be intriguing, then I think the question is, what value do these RSNs still hold? Because the only reason why they exist is to put on local sports broadcasting. Fox deciding not to bid on them and deciding to step back and say, we have absolutely no interest at all, is, I think, a clear sign that the broadcast television market, when it comes to regional sports networks, is starting to collapse. And Fox not wanting to get back in and even buy these networks for potentially $5 billion less than they just sold them to, means that they feel like they left Disney sitting high on a hill with a tough asset. All right? So who's going to end up buying these? Disney has to sell them. If there's no bidders, they may have to sell them off on an individual basis. And if, in fact, they are going to sell them off on an individual basis, then this is a major canary in a coal mine moment for sports rights in the modern era, because I think the future is probably going to be direct digital delivery, which would mean that these RSNs would have no reason to exist. So I think that is where we are headed. I think that is the likely outcome here. It's worth paying attention to if you are at all intrigued by business in general. All right, finally, everybody has been talking about the wall, right? We got a shutdown going on in the federal government. It may end up being the longest shutdown ever as we head into another weekend. I think it's about to set the all-time record. I have not been paying a lot of attention to this, because this to me is a perfect example of staged political theater. Donald Trump, has been using the wall as a metaphor for a long time for the protectionism that he would establish in America for American failed immigration policy in his mind. I think the wall as it exists is primarily a metaphor designed to motivate his voters to come out and support Donald Trump's policies. Meanwhile, the Democrats see the wall as also a political metaphor that isn't representative of what their overall constituency wants. And so we've ended up in this ridiculous loggerhead fight over $5 billion in funding to expand the wall, which would in no way allow the wall to be built in a larger context. Now, I think our immigration policy is fundamentally broken. I think this is one area where Donald Trump disrupting is certainly deserved and well needed. Our immigration policy makes no sense. I think it's fair to question why we have birthright citizenship. I think that made sense in 200 years ago. I think it doesn't necessarily make sense that if you were born in America today, you are automatically a citizen of America. Most countries in the world don't allow birthright citizenship. It's a lot harder to be a citizen than just to be born on the soil. And certainly we have created an incentive, which I would buy into. If I were in Mexico, I would want my kids to be born in America. If I were in China, I would want my kids to be born in America or Canada or any other country where they could have dual citizenship. That's a huge advantage I could give to them. That's something that I think is done out of love and hope for the children that you are birthing, right? I don't blame anybody for taking advantage of that. But I think this process by which we have allowed the population to encourage the illegal immigration, I am in favor of legal immigration. I think we should be pulling as many first-round intellectual draft picks as we can from other countries, bringing them over here, letting them start companies, letting them start businesses that lead to a further flourishment of American life. I am a big believer that immigrants, legal immigrants, by and large, kick the crap out of native-born American citizens. And in fact, that has been shown over the course of time. They come here, they don't bitch, they don't whine, they don't moan, they take advantage of all of our freedoms and all of our opportunities because they understand better than anybody else how fortunate we are all to live in America. I think most American critics have never left America, right? They've never traveled to Asia. They've never traveled to Africa. They've never traveled to Eastern Europe. They haven't been anywhere to see what real degradation, what real struggle represents. The people coming into America understand better than most the advantages and opportunities which we have here, okay? So I'm in favor of legal immigration. I'm not in favor of illegal immigration, and I also am not in favor of stupid political theater. And I think that's what we really have going on here. I would solve this shutdown and this impasse in the government really quickly. Here's what I would do. I would tell Donald Trump to declare a national emergency and announce that he's going to build the wall. He will immediately be sued, and we will spend the next couple of years in court figuring out whether the president has the ability under current constitutional law to declare a national emergency to build a wall. That way the Democrats get to say, oh, look, he's not going to get to build his wall. We're still challenging him on it. Trump gets to say, hey, I'm building the wall. Boom. It all goes into the courts, and the courts have to decide whether American presidential power extends to being able to declare an emergency here and build a wall. All of the federal employees start to go back to work. They get their paychecks, and this crisis is averted until the courts can determine what the law is here. It allows us also to then go into 2020 and allow this to continue to be an issue going forward. That's an easy solution. The Democrats get to oppose the wall. Trump gets to say, I tried to build the wall, but the courts wouldn't let me. That's why you need to elect me in 2020, and that's why we need a more substantial Republican majority so we can get the money to actually allow this to happen. Boom! I've solved the shutdown in one fell swoop. Both sides politically get to feel like they won. The federal workers get to come back and get all of their money. It's a reasonable, moderate, realistic expectation that then allows the adults in the room, i.e. the court, to determine whether or not the president has the power to make a determination like this and declare a national emergency when it comes to issues of border security. I think it makes perfect sense. I think it makes a lot of sense going forward. Allow it to be an issue in 2020. Frankly, I'm going to be honest with y'all. I'm perfectly fine with Congress doing nothing and with the president not doing very much now. The unemployment rate is really low. Earnings are going great. Stock market has come back in a big way here lately. I think we're about to win an important victory with China when it comes to the trade war. I think in general, the country's soundness is on a good spot. I don't know in my life that we've ever had a better economy. I'm more afraid of politicians screwing it up than I am of politicians making it better. So that would be my solution to reasonable bipartisan compromise where nobody gets what they want, but nobody has to turn and run the other direction either, because otherwise I don't see how this ends. I think both sides just end up yelling at each other, staging political theater, and the real victims here, honestly, are the federal workers who have mortgages, who have kids to take care of, who have bills to pay, that aren't getting their salaries, and as a result aren't able to continue to fully participate in their American economic life. That is my solution. Go get rich. Gambling picks again. Chargers, Colts, the Cowboys, and the Saints all against the number. Go dive in. About to be live in a half hour on FS1. We got Colin Cowherd coming on with us on Lock It In for the first time ever as a guest. My name is Clay Travis. This is Outkick the Show. Go watch us on TV now. If you enjoy the show, share it with your friends. This has been Outkick the Show. Love you. Thank you, Facebook. See y'all.